hear the proper. I know, this is like an awareness test where you will not see the moonwalking bear. You see, before you just when you start your track, you put on. What happens?
Your lights, all your lights come.
You are seated. You have done everything. Now you are about to start, because this is what other people may not know. You don't just enter the key and they start the track. You can damage the starter motor. You can cause short circuit. You can cause electrical problems. You enter the keys, you put on, and some sensors, you even hear some sensors, some vehicles, ta, 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 ta. Once that sound finishes, now you are ready to start. Are we together? So now, my question is, when you put on the key, what happens on the dashboard?
All the lights will come on. All the indicators for your signs.
All the lights come on, isn't it? Yes. And when you start,
you're supposed to off. The ones that are working with go, but the ones that is faulty still continue to show them.
Yes. So when you start, whatever remains appearing on the dashboard is a sign of defect, isn't it?
Yes.
If it is the battery, then it is telling you everything connected to a battery, either the alternator, either the fan belt, either the what, isn't it? Now, when you look at this second question, the question says, what are you supposed to do when you see warning brake gauge light turns on after you apply foot brake? In other words, have you ever seen in a car when you press the brake, is anything supposed to come on the dashboard? Yes, our research indicates that most trucks that we lost by fire, those that got bent, trap begins like that. When you see something abnormal happening, you apply brakes and it starts showing on the dashboard something is very wrong. Before you know it, you will see smoke. Before you know it, you'll be in the blaze of fire. That's how we have lost many trucks. So, the issue here should be, when this comes turned on, this needs urgent workshop attention. This one needs urgent workshop attention. Otherwise, it shows an abnormality in the truck's electrical system. Are we clear on that one?
Yes, sir. I have a question now.
Please ask.
Yes. Now, because as you mentioned this issue of the brake light, that we lost some vehicles, trucks as a result of that. I remember last year, we have about 2 trucks last year that got bumped inside plants. One was as a result of, not as a result, it just loaded and it was found as underway or overway. So it was supposed to come out and make a turn back to the parking plant where they can check. So as a result, when you just walk in and just by the line as if it was going, there was just fire and it got bumped. And I think in all our RCA and everything, we couldn't be able to identify what may have caused that. So now that you mention it, it's now occurred. So I want to ask this question now. In the event that this one happened inside the plant, but in the event that a truck, or let's say the Dangote truck driver is on transit, and this thing happened on the road, what should we do? Because maybe someone as a trained driver trainer, someone may ask you this kind of question. So what can you do?
Dashboard, electrical issue. Call the workshop. Explain to them. There are some situations where an electrician cannot just come on the ground 500 kilometers away. But at least he can call the driver to say, check and such a fuse, check this and that. Are you getting that point? There are times when we involve our drivers into certain mechanical electrical works under guidance. For instance, there was a condition in Zambia that there is no driver who should touch anything on the track, only the mechanic should. When they passed that condition, I was not part of the meeting. When I heard about it, I asked, have you guys ever driven a truck before? Do you know what it takes for someone who has just loose brakes 800 kilometers away, 1,000 kilometers away, it's got a malfunction of brakes? Then he should go a mechanic from the workshop to go all the way 800, 1,000 kilometers away to go and adjust the brakes. Let us not exaggerate things. Drivers are the first-hand mechanics before the workshop. Whether people want to believe it or not, I'm speaking as somebody that has been a professional truck driver who knows exactly what happens there. I teach my drivers how to adjust brakes. I teach them it's not wrong for you to have a spare fuse, for you to have a spare bulb. So when your lights cannot go, you just put them. I even teach them how to do it. For a simple reason. There are some issues whereby a driver under my management, I will not tolerate a driver to be 3 days somewhere because of airlock. I teach them how to do it and why it happens. This is practically important. We don't have to pretend. Whether you stop them or not, you will still find them with spanners there. Brakes adjustment, when you talk about brakes, you know, Mr. Kamala presented the brake system and he showed the disc type, isn't it? Those brakes, they are specifically manufactured. One, they have used materials that should be at least heat resistant to some level. And so, when we talk about brakes, it's a very sensitive topic which each and every one of us must take by heart. I don't allow any story of brake failure in my fleets. There is nothing like brake failure that should be an acceptable excuse in a crash. Why? Because we have a course called brakes management, mountain driving and brakes management. We know what the brakes are made up of. We know that causes brake failure. We know how to prevent brake failure. So once we know how brakes function, you know, modern trucks braking system is we may call it, they are spring biased. Okay? Spring biased, meaning they are manufactured already holding the brakes. That's what they are manufactured. And the brake booster's job now was manufactured to disengage the spring so that the brakes can be loose. That's the reason why when you find a truck that was parked yesterday, if you don't release the brakes, it will hold cars like that because it is spring biased. It was manufactured holding brakes. And the only thing that has got power to pull that spring is the booster. Are we moving together? So now, these brakes are problematic in mountain driving situations. Why is it so? Number one, when you don't engage the appropriate gear while going down the mountain, you stress the brakes. There are only two things. It's either you are using the brakes or you are using the gears. How do you know that this driver is using more brakes than gears? The track will talk. When you are following the track and you see smoke coming out of the tires, the driver is stressing the brake, is using more brakes than gears. And as a result, when instead of engaging the gear that should be holding the truck to drive to move at a certain pace, you have engaged either a wrong gear and applying brakes. So what happens is that the materials that were used to manufacture brakes, they get stressed up, they get heat, and once heat is invited on the brakes, brake failure occurs. That is now what we call brake failure. There are only two things that can cause brake failure as in its mechanical setup. Number one is the heat. When you can't engage a low gear that is appropriate to the hill you are driving at, brake failure will occur. Why? Because you'll be leaning on the brakes, and the brakes will get hot. And once the brakes get hot, they lose its effectiveness. The second thing is when you go somewhere, you try to apply brakes, you see a vehicle like moving one side. That shows to say most axles have been affected by water. But it's better for the water than the heat, because it is easier for you to bring back the brakes to function when it is water involved. How do you do it? You only press some brakes a couple of times. By doing so, you are creating heat in the chambers, thereby drying the brakes, and you see that the effectiveness of the brakes come back to normal. But in mountain situations, the motive of driving in mountain situations should be that, should there be an obstacle in front, at whatever given point, the truck must stop without fail. There is no excuse for any truck failing to stop on the slope. There is literally no excuse. If you follow the proper driving techniques, you understand why, how brake failure occurs. Your job now is to prevent brake failure through your driving habit.
I have a question.
Yes.
And while we are talking about brakes, I'd like to talk about tires because they are more or less intertwined. The first question is there a standard for making tires globally or internationally? Is there a standard for making tires? One, ever since I go to a congested area, like say Lagos, the tire, is it right for the tire to wear out faster than somebody who is going to longer distance, who is not applying brakes all the time? Is it normal?
You want to?
I wanted to answer this question.
Why should you answer the question?
Excess applied of brake won't block tires. That's number one. Tires conditions, as you narrated, applying long distance and short distance. Those ones that apply long distance tend to, their tires will last longer because they are not driving under high temperature and excess applied of brake. When you are driving on bad roads and you are applying brake, it's worn off. It's just like frictional feelings. When you apply too much brakes, it's worn off your tires. And the standard of tires differs according to countries. It differs. So, Nigeria, any tire comes, we buy. There's no standard because of the corrupt system.
That is very bad. You are not getting my question.
Let's answer the question.
For the first aspect of the answer, I'm asking a question, I'm not providing an answer. Please just listen to my question. Now, is there a global standard for tires? Minimum, number one. Number two, you were talking about driving and understanding how to apply brakes. Now, if, for instance, I am a professional driver who has gone through all the trainings, it means that I should know how to apply brake. So if I know how to apply brake properly, can we say if I go to a congested area where I need to stop intermittently, it shouldn't have much effect on my tires? That's my question.
Number one, yes, tires differ. Even those that buy these cars, like Kaluku Victor, most of them are.
Yes.
You find that even these trucks, you find that some tires that are used in Europe, they are not suitable for our African roads. They will change them and they put something that is suitable to us. That's number one question. Number two question. I don't really see the connection of applying brakes and the wearing of tires on the track. Why? For the simple reason. If those tires, the brakes on the track is effective on all axles, we should have no problem of that kind. But when you have two axles, they have no brakes. One axle is good brakes and so on. Expect terrible wear of tires. Sometimes I test trucks by the gate. And I use very simple experiments. I'll just start there and tell the driver, drive, apply emergency brakes. Those axles which are not holding 1, 2, 3, 4, make sure this truck coming out of the workshop, I want these axles effective, they are not good. So when you are applying brakes, especially if the truck is even loaded, you should have a rapid tiered way of tires.
Because of applying brakes?
No. We should be talking about the brake shoes and so on. Brakes, tires, unless there is a misalignment of tire, of brakes, where maybe one axle is the one holding out of 10. You will see even the axle bouncing like this. And you will see the tires in bumps. It wears it like in bumps. Then you know the problem is in.
Yes, it's hardly you see a truck.
Yeah, it's hardly you see a lot of our truck that the 3 houses, the brake are working properly. I've asked that question severally in workshop. I've engaged mechanics. That is it not possible for us for a truck to step on